What's up, guys? Welcome to the Sansom Sports Media Podcast. I'm your host, Hunter. Dropping in, it's middle of summer. There's not necessarily a ton going on. A lot of schedule releases, a lot of World Cup action. That's really been the focus of kind of my attention outside of just trying to get kind of everything aligned, get everything going. Just want to take a second here. I won't take too much time. Just for those of you who don't know, I'm now part of a 10-man team here. We have expanded. Sansom Sports Media is growing. There's more coming, but for now, we are covering all of your local schools, all the way south, Kentucky, Louisville. We're west as far as like Indiana, north as far as Columbus, Ohio State. We've got Wright State. We've got Dayton, Miami of Ohio. Still looking for some writers. So if you're interested, Miami, Ohio, Dayton especially are wide open right now. Come get your feet wet in the sports industry and we'll do it together. But also, obviously, a heavy focus on Xavier, Cincinnati. I have two Cincinnati writers. Me and Charlie are covering Xavier. I have NKU, which I cover myself. Also looking for a writer there. So if you're interested, please let me know and we'll work something out. And then we also cover Miami of Ohio. Travis Steele, Chuck Martin have both programs just rolling right now. So a lot to cover. Let's get right into it. I wanted to start today and just take a second on the Brendan Sorsby situation. I have been steadfast in what I've said from the get-go on this. I have not heard anything regarding Brendan Sorsby having any knowledge by any staffers at Cincinnati this year. And I'm talking like any assistant coaches, GAs, anything like that. I've talked to like 15 different people. I've been cold calling people. Hey, do you have a second to talk? Can you give me any information? And then there's guys that I've made connections with that I've been able to talk to. Nobody has given any indication that there's any sort of fishy business. That being said, they absolutely opened that case today. The NCAA sent the inquiry and everything. So something's going to happen. It hopefully for Cincinnati fans will just be an investigation. But if it's not, and there is a cover up and a big grand scheme that goes all the way up the athletic department or something, people need to be fired for this. You cannot sit here and act like Texas Tech is the devil if you're covering things up. I want that on record. So I wanted to record it and put it at the beginning of this podcast today. That being said, I don't want to spend a ton more time talking about that. There's a lot going on with that, and there's a lot that we could get into, but I honestly just don't feel like it's worth speculating over unless we have a factual piece of evidence, and we don't. Right now, all of the facts say that there's nothing there, but it's worth further investigation and further inquiry as we move forward. Now, let's talk about Mike Odom. He's coming from Creighton to Northern Kentucky. Quite a wild switch up, but when you really start to look at it, Creighton's been around, obviously, the Cincinnati-area a lot with Prasco Park for the Big East tournament, and then obviously all of the Xavier home games here where Creighton has to visit. So he's been in the area. He's also helped in some past jobs look at Cincinnati's fan experience and be able to do that. But really, he is just a all journeyman. He's done a lot of marketing. He has started at NC State. He moved to Wake Forest, and then he took a brief break. He went and did some consulting work, like I mentioned with Cincinnati. He was evaluating fan experience, making sure that revenue, profit, that kind of stuff, but also making sure fans enjoyed the game. And then he moved into the National Baseball Coaches Association, where he helped just corporate partnerships and making sure that there was a revenue stream, and he actually set record profits there as well. So we're talking records at NC State. We're talking records at Wake Forest. We're also talking records when he got to the Baseball Association. Creighton, guess what? He had records. At one point while he was at Creighton, they were 6th in fan attendance at the Chai, which is the basketball arena on campus there. One of the most daunted places to play in the country, and absolutely brutal to go in as an away fan or media member. I know I've been there once, and it was just absolutely crazy. That being said, he now comes to Northern Kentucky. It's a big step down the totem pole, if you will, in conference affiliation. What that means, though, is he has all control of the entire athletic department, not just marketing, but he's going to have everything. And if you we've already seen NKU before he even got here decrease his or the season ticket prices. Sorry, my dogs are in the background. And we're going to see more just consistent emphasis on getting players and getting fans to see each other, making those community outreach things like we're seeing with the Norse in the neighborhood and stuff like that, and just really letting people see the NKU team and make it accessible for them to get there. That doesn't just stop at basketball either. I'm talking soccer, baseball, softball, stunt team, volleyball, men's volleyball, women's volleyball, all of it. He is going to help increase fan engagement, fan involvement, and make it an experience. He has a lot of different creative ways that he's done that in the past, and I'm really excited to see what he brings here to NKU. That being said, there's a press conference on Thursday afternoon. You go to sansomsportsmedia.com, and I've got all of the links you need, including a way to buy season tickets and an introductory press conference link for you. You can also go to nkunorse.com to get all of that information. But I've got his full background and kind of just some more thoughts that I had on him and there in the chat. All right, that's a lot of NKU news. From what I've heard, NKU is progressing nicely. Summer workouts. I know that there were a lot of questions about the AD, and that's really been the main point that I've heard. I've also had a lot of questions about, not Xavier, NKU's NIL. We'll get to Xavier's NIL in a minute, but NKU's NIL budget, I've heard roughly $350,000. Again, it's a give or a take. And I think that just shows you the disparity between high major and low major college basketball right now. Xavier on record in a courtroom with $14 million. NKU, 350 or so. It's around that range. I was given over 350 as the number that I was allowed to use, so I'll stick with that. I was told that all of the coaches and staff were very happy with the NIL budget this year. Obviously, you could always use more, but they were able to obtain the players they wanted to get in the transfer portal. Notice this year, there are all D1 players. NKU, they brought in a lot of guys from the higher level down, or even some guys from similar levels like the Southland Conference and stuff like that, where they're not transferring up a bunch of levels, but they're transferring to a little bit more competitive conference. And then you've got guys like BJ Davis-Ray coming down from a high major at SMU, former 3-4-star recruit, depending on where you look at, and just really an awesome mix of talent and athleticism on this year's team. It's going to be a little different, I think, than previous years, but I'll have all of that as we move forward. But I did want to hop on here and just give a few minutes on the status of NKU's NIL and just really confirm that the coaches, while obviously they want more NIL, everybody wants more NIL. $30 million isn't enough, but the NKU has what they need. So now what they need is a great fan environment. They need people to just help spread the word that NKU basketball is here and they're trying to build something great. The best thing you can do is support, like and follow like the NKU accounts, like and follow my account. So that way I can get more broad coverage out to you guys and just make sure that we are supporting NKU as you can, as you're a fan of it, and move forward. All right. For Xavier, I mentioned the NIL and I said I would get to it in a second. Coach Pitino went on record downtown Cincinnati in a courtroom, and the trial for Phillip and Malik, and it involves like 15 or 16 players, and includes Colby King and MJ Collins from Utah State that would be going to Cincinnati. And on record, he got on the stand under oath and said that Xavier had $14 million plus to contribute to NIL this year. That is the first time that I've been able to find since NIL started that a coach has gone on record publicly and said that he has this number of NIL. And that's important, and I don't necessarily think it changes a ton right now. These players know general budgets and how much they're making, how much their other guys are making. I'm a big advocate for salary transparency, and I hope that they're doing that kind of thing as well. But you have to make sure that you have the budget you need, and Richard Pitino had that this year. They're obviously, again, you could ask for more money. Oh, I want to get to 15. I want to get to 20. Fine. But he had what he needed, and he was able to bring in the roster that he wanted to bring in. You saw that with how quickly that team came together. Now, that being said, a lot of teams are in that 12 to 16 plus $1 million range there. There are a handful of teams, maybe 10 or 15, as Sean Miller famously said earlier this summer, that are over $20 million. I do think that's true. There has been a drastic increase this year in some of these teams that have football but don't necessarily use it, that have given a lot of their revenue share to the basketball program. That being said, you've still got programs like Ohio State where the vast majority, $15-16 million of rev share, is going straight to the football program. And that's how it is across most of the power conferences. And that's what puts Xavier at such a great advantage when it comes to how they're going to operate from a revenue share standpoint. Basketball can eat up as much of that $20 million as they can. And then you have other programs that are still going to get some. Women's basketball, soccer, baseball, all of those need some, so it can be a comprehensive program, but you have that opportunity to really give a ton of money to the basketball program, which is what it needs and what it got this year. John Rothstein today projected them at 7th in the Big East. I don't agree with them being behind Creighton, behind Marquette. You could make arguments either way for those top 4 or 5, but I think Xavier is in that top 4 or 5 category where they're going to be fighting for maybe not the Big East crown, because I do think UConn, St. John's are still going to be the cream of the crop there, but I do think that there is absolutely a case where Xavier finishes even top 2 or surprises. And I mean, they could win the freaking conference. It's anybody's game in July when we sit here. But I think Mike Nwoko, Chance Westry, True Washington, and Ruben Dominguez really balance out Jovan, and Gabe Pizzotto, and really give you a solid 7-man punch. Rollins Aljibe is going to be a great depth piece. And then there are going to be some other guys, and I know I'm missing somebody, and I apologize. Your freshman, Calic House, Asher Ellison, those kinds of guys that are all going to play a role in this team. I think House will see significant minutes this year. Chance is, of course, going to play 30 or so minutes a game, and we expect that. But I would expect to see House eat up a good chunk of those other minutes. Other than that, I would expect, like I said, top 4 or so in the Big East, and I think that anything less than that's a disappointment. This is a tournament-level team, and anything below that would be very disappointing this year. Let's move to Cincinnati. Again, they're another team that is in that $12 to $16 million range. I'm not going to give out the exact number because I've heard just a couple different things, and I don't want to give out the wrong number, and I've been asked to not do that. However, Tylen Riley, Miles Colvin, Tyler Tejada, Riley Allenspach, Travion Carson, Jaden Hastings. I could go down the list here. Adlin Eleman, Akai Fleming, Elijah Perryman. Just person after person after person here. This is a deep roster and a crazy athletic roster. I had the privilege to go see them in person a couple weeks ago. Absolutely elite athleticism. They're not just tall. Everybody, as Chad Brindle, when I was talking to him, said, everybody in the Big 12 is this tall. It wasn't that stood out to me. It was how long that this team is. They are just incredibly athletic, and they're incredibly long. I expect a lot of deflections. I'm going to expect them to clog up passing lanes on defense, and I'm going to expect them to play at the rim a lot. These guys were dunking. I mean, I saw Hastings go up for at least 3 or 4 dunks. Tejada looks like an absolute beast. He's every bit of 6'9". You know, you always see those. You're like, are you 6'9"? Are you not 6'9"? No, he's every bit of 6'9", if not like closer to 6'10", and muscular. These guys are going to be great, and I really expect Cincinnati to be very, very good this year. I won't say that they're going to be at the top of the Big 12. The Big 12 is the top basketball conference in the country. I won't go that far, but this team is going to be very good. I would expect them to compete towards the top, and a single-digit seed like Xavier is almost, not necessarily the expectation, but if you're not a single-digit seed, things probably have gotten a little bumpy throughout the year. There are a ton of guys that have to come together both on Cincinnati and Xavier. Maybe things go sideways a little bit. Maybe things don't work out perfectly correct. But for now, I think that this team is going to be great. And as long as they're healthy, I think that there's no problem with them being towards the top of the Big 12 and really fighting towards the top. I'm going to have my guys Michael and Noah on to really go through a bigger breakdown of the roster and get those experts in here to really be able to give you each individual player breakdown. And we're going to talk some football. So that'll be coming out here in the next couple of weeks. Maybe give us towards the middle of July there to get that done. But we're working on that in the background. So that's going to be coming out. For Xavier, I want to go back, though, just for a second for Pizzotto. I did not mention the injury that Pizzotto has. He has a bone bruise. It's healing. Rothstein, again, put out a tweet that said that it was healing. He should be better in the next month or so. I think that's along the timeline that I heard back in June, and I think that stands true now. I am concerned overall just about his durability, and if he is not able to go, I won't say the ceiling of this team decreases, but the floor definitely will drop a little bit, and there's going to be room for them to drop just a little bit more, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. However, he's going to be back. Hopefully he can get healthy and take care of his body the way he needs to, and things will move forward. All right, non-conference schedules. Going to do something, actually, apologies. I'm going to break for just a second. Overall, I was asked, is it good or bad that Pitino had to give out his number? I waited until the end to bring this up because Calhoun was asked the same question as Pitino. However, Calhoun's lawyer, who was not in the room when Xavier's coach Pitino was speaking, objected, and then Calhoun did not answer that question. So the budget for Cincinnati does not have a number on it. I will tell you it's in the 10 plus 12. I'd say 12 plus million range without speaking out of turn there. But I don't think it's a bad thing per se that Pitino had to give that number away. It was rumored that they were in the $12 to $15 million range. They got all the players they wanted. They're all signed. They're all on campus. It's the middle of the summer. Players cannot go into the portal. That number will be different next year. That number should be higher next year. There's no going back down. You don't get to, I had 14. I'm going to go down to 12. If that happens, this season has been a drastic failure, and donors have pulled out. That is the opposite of obviously what you want to happen. So expect that number to be at 14 plus every single year. Donors may not love that it's out there, but it's out there. It's really not a bad thing. I don't think it really plays into recruiting or anything like that. All these programs are operating with those kinds of budgets. But these are great questions, guys. I appreciate everybody's openness and wanting to ask some of these questions today. As I pull up the rest of them here, Iowa's non-conference schedule. Xavier is going to play Iowa. Xavier's also going to play Mississippi State. They're also going to play Cincinnati, of course, Virginia, Texas A&M. So I'll take a second for Iowa here while I pull up the tracker that I've got for our local teams. Iowa, Creighton, Xavier, back-to-back. They play them on the 15th of November and then the 20th of November. Creighton's neutral. At Xavier is neutral site. Then they've got Iowa State. They are not ducking competition this year. Of course, Iowa State's always happening. Creighton being neutral site, from what I can understand, they couldn't agree to home and home per se, and neither team wanted to be the one that went on the road this year, so they decided to do this instead. Perfectly fine with me. I don't love neutral sites, but at least they're playing these good games. I'd rather it be that than an extra game against Eastern Illinois, who's on their schedule as well. All right, enough about non-local teams. I'll have a bigger episode breaking down some of the top schedules as they get released. I know Iowa State's has come out, Kansas, and some of the other big schools have already released theirs. So we'll have that coming up here in the future as an extra episode for you guys. But let's share my screen here. All right. You guys should be able to see it right now. All right, so what I've got here is, and this is home built. I'll have the link here in the podcast description. I built this on my own. It's nothing fancy. It's a Google document that just it's an Excel sheet, and it just has the names. You can see here I have notes. I have the MTE. I have buyout numbers if we know them, that kind of stuff. Xavier has a pretty full non-conference schedule starting to get there. The highlights are Mississippi State, which is going to be at the Greenbrier in Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. I've never been to the Greenbrier. I grew up right on the border of Kentucky, West Virginia. I will tell you the Greenbrier is highly regarded by most people around the area. It'll be a nice evening. It is a little difficult to me to wrap my head around why we're playing Mississippi State versus Xavier in West Virginia, where neither fan base is going to be hugely represented because it's honestly the middle of nowhere. I would much rather this game have been, I don't know, if you wanted to do it in West Virginia for whatever reason, do it in Charleston or do it in Knoxville, Nashville, somewhere down there, Lexington even, Louisville. There are about 100 different locations that I could pick. I know the Greenbrier tip-off happens every year, and that's what this is, but still, I just don't love it. But it's a good game. It should be a Q2 game. Mississippi State was actually Q3 at a neutral site last year, but I think that's an outlier. Chris Jans is always good as a coach, and Josh Hubbard returns. So I think they'll be okay to get in that top 100. Keep that as Q2. Xavier returns, plays Cleveland State as a little game at home. Shouldn't be much big. And then they host Iowa on 11/20. That is going to be at Cintas, and that is a absolutely huge matchup for both teams. We just got into Iowa's schedule a little bit. Iowa does figure to be towards the top of the Big Ten. Xavier, of course, I talked about being towards the top of the Big East. That is a massive matchup, and I love that they are doing the home and home there. I like to see that happening. Of course, after that, we have 11/25, 11/27, and then 12/9 or 12/5. Apologies. See, I'm editing as we go. All right, so we got Virginia and then Texas A&M. I do not have dates for which one's going to be first and which one's going to be second, but the Battle for Atlantis this year will be a game or a showcase event rather than a bracket. So what that means is you're going to play Virginia and A&M, and then we're not going to play a team like Marquette that's in there as well. What that means for Xavier is they're not going to get a repeat conference opponent, which is why they're doing it. I have heard that the Battle for Atlantis will look to go back to bracket next year, but it all depends on who they can get. The Players Era has killed so many of these MTEs. That's why you're seeing this. The Players Era takes the conference selectivity out of the way, and it makes it difficult. After that, 12/9 Cincinnati, crosstown shootout. We all know what it is. No more needed there. That's going to be amazing. I can't wait to be in Fifth Third to see that one happen. And then, of course, all 20 Big East home and home games there. Moving on to Cincinnati. Dayton, Xavier, Clemson, Georgia, Boston College. That's what I've got confirmed for you guys right now. I think what this new staff is doing is being a little bit more intentional about how they release things and waiting, and they're going to probably just shoot us with the entire schedule when it comes out here. I do have a records request in. I have not heard back from any of these bye games yet or anything, so we're kind of just at their whim to figure it out. All right, as I sit here, Indiana and Missouri just broke news that they're going to play a game on December 18th. So I'm going to go over here to Indiana, and of course, Indiana doesn't like to play at Assembly Hall for whatever reason. So they're going to play a neutral site game. They are playing. Oh, actually, I lied. Indiana fans, I apologize. This one is at Assembly Hall. So absolutely love that. That's a great game and something that'll just bring another level for the Indiana team and the Indiana fans. You can see up there, UNC at Gamebridge Fieldhouse is an exhibition. And then you've got Syracuse, Kentucky, and now Missouri, all games for Indiana to play this year. That schedule is ramping up. However, let's go back to Dayton for just a second. I know I'm skipping around the order a little bit here, but Dayton has Notre Dame in the CareSource Expedition, the Jays Light charity game. Love that cause. Love that they're doing that. It'll be at UD Arena. I will be there for coverage. They get NJIT to open the season. They have Cincinnati on 11-14, and that is a game at UD Arena. I love that. And that is absolutely amazing to see Cincinnati go up there and actually honor that side. I was concerned that Cincinnati would try to buy it out with the new coaching staff and everything, but that's a rivalry that should be happening every year. Memphis is a neutral site game. It's a part of the A10 AAC scheduling alliance. Teams are to be determined. It'll be 2 brackets, Virginia Tech, Utah. Wrong one there. Let me go on here. We got the Charleston Classic next. The A10 alliance will be Memphis. Neutral site, 11-29. 11-21 and 11-23, you can go ahead and pencil in Charleston Classic there for the Dayton Flyers. Those teams are to be announced. Virginia Tech, Utah, Minnesota, Oklahoma State are confirmed, waiting on 3 spots. That will be a 2-game series there. They are at Florida State in the return from last year, and then they are at Liberty in the return from last year. And we love to see that. We also love to see that Chris Mack is making his return to UD Arena. He will be a South Florida Bull head coach when he comes, but he is making his return. That is going to be extremely hyped, and it's also on one of the bigger weekends of college basketball in the offseason. So that's going to be amazing. Make sure that you guys tune in for that one. I'm excited to watch. And I'm going to wrap this portion up with Ohio State. If you haven't figured it out yet, there is something I'm going to at the end here that I wanted to get these 3 teams first. They open the year at the Delta Center against BYU. Love the matchup. Love that they're opening the year on it. That's exactly what they should do. UConn, 11-13. Hartford, Connecticut. I mean, what more can you ask for? True road game against a national championship participant last year, national championship contender this year. That's great. Schottenstein Center gets to host Vanderbilt. They will travel to Notre Dame, and then they will play Kansas at Madison Square Garden in December. This is a great schedule for Ohio State basketball. Jake Diebler is finally stepping into his own. He's recruited his ass off at this point, and really just Ohio State basketball is becoming something. And if they can just keep it going, that's the thing. You can't just wax and wane with basketball anymore. You've got to go all the way in. So they've got to continue to give these resources. I know the AD, Ross Bajork, just said that he was planning to do that and that they're going to have a $500 million athletic budget in the not so near future. That's great. They have to keep giving money to basketball. Diebler is a good coach if he's given the resources. I honestly believe that at this point. All right. I don't have it in here yet because it's not officially official and we don't have dates or locations, but Cincinnati, Xavier, Dayton, and Ohio State are playing an exhibition MTE style of event where it's going to be a showcase. So there's going to be 2 matchups. It's going to be Xavier and Dayton, and then it's going to be Ohio State and Cincinnati. I don't love that it's an exhibition. I don't love that it's a showcase, and I don't love that there's not going to be an extra game there. I wish that it was day one you play Ohio State and Cincinnati, and then Xavier and Dayton play, and then the winners play and the losers play. But we don't get that. We'll take what we can get here for now. Now, that being said, I have heard multiple times throughout this process that has been ongoing for several weeks now. It's really gained some steam in the last maybe 3 weeks, and I started hearing a lot more buzz about it. But this is not planned to be just an exhibition forever. I think the long-term goal is to get this into an MTE style thing. And honestly, if you wanted to, and I don't have this is not a sourced information or anything. This is my opinion. If they would put this on Thanksgiving week, host it in, I don't know. Cleveland 1 year. I don't know. Columbus. Let's just skip Cleveland. Let's do Columbus, Xavier, Dayton, Cincinnati, or some of that order. Just break up the Cincinnati so you're not playing 2 years in Cincinnati. So do 1 year Columbus, 1 year Cincinnati, 1 year Dayton, 1 year Cincinnati. That way you're doing that. But play it at home arenas. Let's go to UD Arena. Let's play these games. Let's go to Schottenstein Center and play these games. Cintas Center, Fifth Third Arena. All of those would be just absolutely rocking if we could play these games at home arenas. I think and I hope that that's what the long-term plan is. But again, I cannot say that that is sourced information. That is a very, very scant, more of an opinion than anything. But I have heard some rumblings of them trying to get this moved long-term. All right, moving pretty quickly here. NKU has some big schedule news coming soon that I cannot talk about yet, but South Dakota, Central Michigan, Georgia Southern, Bellarmine, I do expect them to play at EKU. I expect East Tennessee State. I expect Wofford. I don't know about Boston. There's going to be a lot of travel kind of constraints there, so waiting to hear back on that one. But left it on there because those were all last year's games that were our tentative returns. Miami. Haven't heard a ton from Miami yet. We do know they're going to play in the MAC Sunbelt Challenge against JMU on opening night. They're going to play Evansville at the Ford Center. That's a home and home. Eastern Kentucky is going to come to Millett Hall. And then High Point is a neutral site to be determined game. There are 2 games still hanging out that are Wright State and UNC Asheville. Both of those are returns from last year. I would expect Wright State to be here. UNC Asheville, I believe, will be away. All right, we touched on Dayton. Let's go to Wright State. Toledo, Stetson, and then the Miami game that I mentioned a second ago. Not much broken here. Again, it's hard for some of these schedules, and I'll have some more thoughts here in just a second on those. Kentucky. This is a really balanced non-conference schedule. I know a lot of people gave them hate for how many bye games there are, but they really balanced it out well. You've got Kansas, Indiana, Virginia, Louisville, North Carolina, all baked in here. Lots of Q1 opportunities. Kentucky has every opportunity to take care of business and have a really good really good schedule, really good resume headed into conference play. They are missing 1 game. I do not know. I would expect it to be a bye game, but I do not know the opponent yet. Louisville. UT Chattanooga and Morehead State open the night. Thank you to Louisville for getting me that information. Love to hear that. That's a great opening week at the Yum Center. They then they'll get Kansas in an exhibition at Allen Fieldhouse before those games start. Then they have Baylor, which is a TBD return game. I believe that'll be neutral site. Then they've got Memphis at FedEx, which is in Memphis, Texas Tech in Vegas, St. John's or Oregon in Vegas, and then TBD in Vegas for the Players Era. We love to see that. I do like the matchups. I just hate what Players Era is doing to the other tournaments. They've got Texas at the Yum Center as part of the ACC SEC Challenge, and then that Cincinnati game has been moved. All right. That is all of our local schedules here. Wanted to take a minute, guys, and just say thank you. There's been a lot of support. Right now, a lot of guys are asking, how can I help? What can I do? Like this video, subscribe to SansomSportsMedia.com, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure you're following us on X, Instagram, both at Bracket NKY, TikTok at Bracket NKY, Facebook, Sansom Sports Media. I have a Reddit community now. Make sure you're active on socials. Make sure you're following us and liking, just like seeing our content come out. That's the biggest way you can help us right now. I'm not asking for monetary donations or anything like that. However, if you do want to do something to help support in a monetary way, we have merch. Go look at the merch options. There's some great t-shirts. They're all comfort colors and just some really great options there where you can get some Sansom Sports Media branded stuff. You can rock it in the yard. You can rock it to the pool. You can do whatever you want to do with it. I don't care. Please be respectful of it, that being said, but do whatever you need. It's your shirt. I just like that I'm able to provide something that you guys can help represent the brand and help us build something independent of everybody else and completely homegrown, independent grassroots journalism. There's no sponsorships right now. I am working on a couple that'll be coming up. One's going to be the State Line Hat Company. I know I can announce that one. Waiting on codes and a couple other things to come in, and I'll have more details for you on that stuff. But like, subscribe, follow along. That means the world to us. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you soon.